How's it going, you guys? This is episode 7 of Cyberpunk Edgerunners. So there's a lot of stuff going on in the show, so it's kind of hard to comment on it, but it's good. It's a good show. If any of you guys haven't seen it yet, I recommend checking it out. It's a good show. I like it. Unfortunately, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that starts happening in the show very quickly, and it's hard to kind of piece it all together because it just feels like I'm watching like highlights of a show or highlights of a story. Unfortunately, that's like the feeling I get because it's just like I feel like there's so much wasted time in the early part of the show that it's just like all of this started like setting in so quickly that I just didn't get a chance to like properly process like the emotions that go through the show. And that's one of the reasons why I like kind of slow paced shows, and then when it needs to pick up, it just picks up right away. But like everything needs to be dialed, like there was a lot of shall we say fat in the story, but yeah, anyway, this is Cyberpunk Edgerunners episode 7, and let's get started, shall we?
Tag shotties, man. Cream as hell. Charge up shots. Oh yeah. Wait, what's my knees? Weak knees.
Yeah.
Just remember to stay behind me and be smart. Don't rush.
You mean you want me to take rear? Hey, I ain't no noob, man.
Attention, ladies. We're about a minute out now.
This is interesting though. Like you can see the change, like the time skip. But I wish we had a time frame, like so we can kind of get like a better understanding of the story and the characters time wise. Like we could start seeing their growth and how they start evolving into what they are. We kind of get like that feeling, but they don't really like. We can't get an accurate representation of what's happening. It's unfortunate, but oh well. Because like clearly some time has passed.
Heaps of iron and turrets, multiples.
Suck her up! And now here comes the big guy! A goddamn turret?
Kiwi.
Hey, what is that?
Please, Kiwi. Little Kiwi.
His death, like, okay, this next part is really cool.
Yo, the fuck? Is that human?
Like, look at the size difference on him, bro. Look at what he was.
It's Joe. I know how to fly just fine.
Nova! Zoop, 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 bang!
Those are fancy new leg implants, looking damn good.
No more. All clear. Last one. Room behind you. Target's there. Her. Others too. All friendlies.
Roger, roger.
Yo!
I like that reference to Star Wars, though.
Wait, Julio.
But this is, like, the part that, like, always annoyed me. Like, wasn't he scared shitless? But now that he sees that, he's, like, super hyped. So he rushes in and gets killed. I feel like if we would have gotten to see, like, a mentorship, like, it would have been a little bit better.
Isabella Morgan, you in here?
We would have seen, like, the cycle continue. You know what I mean?
I'm here because your dad put out an SOS. You're safe now.
Like, one legend expires the next. Sort of thing.
Wakako there?
You safely
I
secured
feel like
the
that's a
target,
weak point
I fear.
because of that. Like, for the
Our
show.
client will be pleased. Yes, that Isabella was safe, not
Good doing biz.
This is, like, a really good scene right there, the parallel.
Thank you kindly.
Appreciate the ride, Falco. Really.
Always happy to keep the engine warm.
Gave up trying.
Never pegged her as the type to get all shook up.
More on what happened to Maine and Dorio's at play, I think. At the warehouse, Lucy was acting, I don't know, strange.
Strange how?
Hard to say. Whole thing's kind of a blur. It might have been nothing. By the way, wasn't it you who brought Lucy on board?
This is good writing right here. I love the dialogue right here. How they, like, go over stuff. How they're kind of catching up. I feel like that's such natural dialogue between actual people.
Breed, something to prove, whatever.
Where this show shines, I think it's in the dialogue. I think that's more than anything. That's what it shines on.
Yo, yo, yo! David, I'm on face! Nagging old hat.
Look, this is what I mean.
Although some Edgerunners died more shame than they started with.
Yo, it ain't right to badmouth the dead. It's not my bro's fault he got zeroed by some bare dick psycho. But what abs? You ever seen David dance? It's a riot.
Sounds preem, but think I'm gonna bounce. Gotta stop by Doc's.
Seriously, again?
David's still slouching. You saw that?
Really need a dance tip.
Will
Laser
do.
pop hip grind.
See ya.
Hey, I ain't good at playing just friends.
By now. Believe yourself to be special?
Must just be special, I guess.
Ha! Makes you Adam Smasher 2.0, Joe.
Adam who?
Christ, all this time and you're still a fucking noob. Adam Smasher, name to know. To some, a hero of the Fourth Corporate War. To others, a fully bugged boogeyman, a walking nightmare. But to all, a living legend. Ask anyone.
What kind of legend?
The kind that fills graveyards on Arasaka's order.
Adam Smasher, I wish he was still alive. Like, if he's like, he should be alive as an engram, honestly.
Kiwi.
He's too good to pass up.
What's up?
Afterlife, stop by. Can you come?
Attachment. Familiarity muddies the mind, leads to ruin. I hear you're also a team builder.
Keep biz and private separate, if that's what you mean.
I need convincing that you can work at Maine's level, deliver as he did.
A test?
You're welcome to think of it that way.
Test all you want, but we don't do jobs on the cheap.
I assure you.
This is the part that bugs me. Like, a lot of these people aren't significant to the story.
Talent, potential.
Her heart's just not in it.
I suggest you give her a nudge in the right direction.
Easier said than done. But Arasaka knows Militech's after him, ain't that right?
Them and everyone else.
So what's Militech after that they'd risk such a
The fact that he knows so much should, like, alert David,
It is
though.
certainly no concern of yours. Unneeded details also muddy the mind.
Learn anything new that might help us?
I'm afraid not. But good things come to those who act. First, prove you're worth my time.
This is what I'm talking about, bro. Like, you can tell the noobiness in David's still here. Like, there. Like, you can tell. It's, like, he's still a noob.
You're home. Pretty late.
Got a little caught up.
Victory lap at Minjun's?
I love how he still keeps his, like, a memento of his mom like that.
We did lose someone, yeah.
Who?
See, we both know I'd always rather have you
Please,
around.
David. I just need a little more time.
Of course, no problem. More diving today?
So she's definitely running around trying to figure out
Suit, why don't you?
what the deal is with
Not really
David.
one.
Why they want him.
Should get you a new chair at least. That ice bath can't be comfy.
Thanks, but never liked chairs. Suits.
Oh,
And this soundtrack just makes this more dramatic, too. Excellent choice on their part, to be honest.
David.
Huh?
Come on.
You know where, like, I think they screwed up? Now that I think about it. There, I'll tell you at the end. But, like, it's the introduction of Faraday.
All those stars.
Can't get a view like this in the city.
Maybe I'll catch one.
You're lucky you're cute.
Sure wish the moon was out.
They forced us to dive. Old nets where they sent us.
Wait, the old net? But I thought that whole system collapsed something like 50 years ago, didn't it?
Brought down by history's greatest netrunner, creator of daemons. He was a true savant.
He's still alive, by the way.
Legend Rach Bartmoss.
So those who didn't know that.
Yeah. The guy corrupted like 78%
Yeah.
of the global net.
Yeah,
in a
he's still
single
alive.
day.
He's
Data crash virus. Shattered cyberspace. Broke the net into a scattered mosaic.
he
of
escaped into the net. That's how he's still alive.
Connection severed. Data.
And this is the part that always bugged me, too. Like, this bugs me so much because, unfortunately, what happens is that they're like explaining so much.
Only an advanced runner can interface using their whole mind.
A deep dive.
It gives shape
But we don't
to
actually get to see it. That's the
cyberspace, a way to
problem.
traverse it. But whenever we uncovered any rare data cache,
This is the part that, like, all of this, like, this entire episode, I feel like just bugs me so much. Like, we get to see a part of her that, like, we don't really get to see ever again. And then, like, that... Okay. Alright, I'll go through it. I'll go through the episode and kind of explain what I'm talking about. So... when we get introduced to what's his face? To Gus Fring. I forgot his name. One of the things that bugged me is that, so the way it's set up is that basically he's talking to what's his face, the doctor, and like the series of events, the way they're set up basically is just it's a little jumbled. I don't feel like it feels natural, if that makes sense. Do you know what, like, does that make sense? Like, there's no parallels between the two, like between... Okay. All right, let me start again because that doesn't really make sense what I'm trying to explain. So the way it's set up currently is that you have Lucy and David kind of interacting with each other. And the problem that occurs when you have them like set up in the way it's currently set up is that it doesn't really feel like anything's kind of happening in the story, if that makes sense. So, like right now, we kind of see a little bit of like the story kind of building, and it's kind of like this is like what they say, like the calm before the storm. This entire episode was, and it's just like, because there's so much happening on screen. With like the new guy dying, and like we get to see like the jump cut. I feel like it's just kind of like information overload, basically. Like there's too much happening at once, and there's not enough like things happening in the story that actually makes the story like grounded and actually makes the story work, if that makes sense. Like, if you're gonna do something like that, you have to do it a certain way, and it's just the way it does it, I don't feel like does justice to like the story, unfortunately. And this part, like, the show is good, and like the writing for the characters is phenomenal, but when it comes to like the storytelling aspect, I think this is like where the show starts failing, unfortunately. Like, this is like, I think this is one of the weakest points for Cyberpunk Edgerunners. Like the more I watch this show, like the more, and like the more times I watch the show, it's like the more I start realizing where it starts like failing. So for example, one of the best ways to introduce a new character, or at least like bring back a character, is that you like bring up like the presence he commands. You don't really get to see Gus Fring's character. I forgot his name. Whatever his name is. You don't really get to see like what he commands and why he's significant to the story. And we don't really get to see like the slow build up for eventually, like, spoiler alert, eventually for Kiwi's like betrayal. It's not really hinted at. It's not really, I guess you could argue it's somewhat hinted at, but it's like, if she's like a main part of the crew, and she's like, and she is a main part of the story, bro, and like her betrayal is significant to the story. It literally eventually leads to everyone's deaths. So it's like, it doesn't, I don't feel like it really makes sense if that, like, it's unfortunate because there's no alluding to it. Like, you don't see like the moment where she starts kind of leading up to it or anything like that. It's just like, it feels very forced in there, if that makes sense. Like, you can kind of get glimpses of it, but it's not even then, bro. It's like, the way it's set up, it doesn't feel organic, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't make it feel significant to the story. And if no one has, like, any trust for each other, then why do they trust her? It's one of those things, you know? Like, is she trustworthy or is she not? You know, like, it's one of those things, especially in a crew that small. You should know everyone in there. Like, you should say, everyone in there is trustworthy. Like, we don't really get a chance to see it this episode, but eventually we get to see that Rebecca actually is trustworthy. Like, 100% trustworthy, to David anyway. And that's what I'm talking about. Stuff like that. Like, you don't actually get to see that. So, like, at the same time, I don't know why David's really trusting her. Because she was like, Faraday, that's his name. We don't even get to see, like, the introduction when they had Faraday talking to, David was talking to Faraday was an introduction based off of Kiwi. But David doesn't doubt her in any way, shape, or form. He doesn't you can tell he doesn't like Faraday. But he doesn't, like, question it. Like, you're a net runner, bro. Or, sorry, not a net runner. You're an edge runner. You know exactly that, like, you could die at any moment, and if you die, you know that you're fucked, bro. Like, you're basically just screwed over Lucy. So it's annoying to me that, like, he doesn't actually put any actual thought into it. And you're talking, and this is a guy that's really, really smart. Top of his class. You're talking, like, one of the smart, like, he's a very smart kid, bro. Like, he's really smart. But, like, I don't think he has the skill set, you know, to, like, be able to judge people very well, unfortunately. Because he's just, like, he's so obsessed with what he's trying to accomplish for a dream. He's trying to be the best edge runner possible, that you don't actually get to see him become his own person, if that makes sense. And they actually go into that a little bit in the show, but it's like, you don't actually get to see how the story could have evolved, and it's unfortunate, really. But, anyway, yeah, that was it. It's, the show's good. The show is definitely good. It's one of the few shows that I would say, like, that is worth watching, unfortunately. Like, the writing is very hit or miss at times, and it just feels very rushed, and I feel like you get rushed with too many things that are just happening in the story. Like, if they would have had some kind of, I get this is a love story, but, like, the love story doesn't, like, the love aspect doesn't really even make sense to it, so it's just, it's frustrating for me, but it is what it is, man. You know, you can't really do much about it. It is what it is. We just gotta take it, to be honest. It sucks that it happened this way, but hopefully they can remedy that a little bit with a new DLC for the game. I doubt it. It's unfortunate, but you know, what can you do, right? So yeah. Well, anyway, that was Cyberpunk Edgerunners episode 7. If you haven't checked out the series, I can recommend it. It's a pretty good show. It's not one of the best shows it's one of the best shows of the year. Not really saying a lot, considering 2023 didn't have a lot of, shall we say, good shows out, unfortunately. There's a few, but, you know, overall, there wasn't that many. But yeah, it's, I would recommend checking it out, if you haven't checked it out already. And, yeah, that's basically it. So, I guess I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.